Good evening. You're welcome to another edition of A to Z of Export Business Financing on Import-Export platform, brought to you by 3T Impes Trade Academy. We've been discussing A to Z of Export Business Financing for a while now. It's been almost a week. We are currently in part 9 of the A to Z of Export Business Financing. This evening we'll be looking at mitigating payment risk. Mitigating payment risk. Lekan Oteshile, thank you very much. I don't know if it's Oteshile or Oteshile, so sorry for the pronunciation, but thank you very much for joining and good evening. So A to Z of Export Business Financing, we are discussing part 9 this evening. Okay, Emmanuel, thank you very much for joining and good evening. Our focus this evening will be on mitigating payment risk. Mitigating payment risk. George Christian, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Mitigating payment risk. The goal of doing the trade transaction, of exporting the product, of doing the business in the first place because you want to earn some profit and some income. But one obvious risk you're likely going to face in export business is the payment risk. Risk that payment might not come. Lekan Oteshile, thank you very much for a compliment. We appreciate that. It's very possible that payment might not come for whatever reason. So what we'll be discussing this evening is what are the things that make payment not to come on time, and what can be done to mitigate payment risk. What can be done to mitigate payment risk? Out of the 4 commonly used payment methods in international trade, and this payment method, we've talked about them in the past. We have the open account, we have the letter of credit, we have the bill for collection, and we have the advance payment. In open account, payment is made after the buyer have received document and clear the goods. So it poses a great risk and danger to the exporter. In bill for collection, payment is also made after the buyer have seen document, and in some cases when he has not just seen document but clear the goods. Still poses danger to the exporter. But in the other 2 cases, letter of credit, the buyer will only have access to the document and clear the goods after his buyer must have given an undertaking to pay. So there you have the exporter protected. And in the advance payment, there is no risk at all. The exporter received the payment well ahead. Well ahead. Well ahead of the shipment. So we will now be focusing on the 2 that poses danger. Only 2 of them, which is open account and bill for collection, poses danger to the exporter, and only 2 also protect the exporter against the payment default risk. And the 2 that protect the exporter against payment default risk is the advance payment and the letter of credit. Whereas the 2 that does not protect the exporter against payment default risk is the open account and the bill for collection. Open account is also called cash against document and the bill for collection. Samuel Oladayo, thank you very much for joining. Hence, an exporter should not accept these 2 payment terms except he has been able to find a way to mitigate the risk. So, if I'm going to accept a bill for collection in an export transaction, if I'm going to accept an open account in an export transaction, it should be unwise if I accept that payment method, take over that risk, if I have not found a way to mitigate that risk. It will be unwise for me to take on that risk if I have not found a way to mitigate that risk. So what we'll be discussing this evening is mitigating that payment risk. What we'll be discussing this evening is mitigating that payment risk. Mubarak Macro, thank you very much for joining. How then do we mitigate the payment risk if I have a payment method that is not secured? There is one option I've talked about earlier, which I will talk about again now, and that's the option of using a payment instrument called payment guarantee or a commercial standby letter of credit. If that term is new to you, we're in the part 9 of this discussion. You might want to go and check on my timeline for the previous videos from part 1 to part 8. Then you will get to know about those two payment methods. That's those two payment instruments, which is standby letter of credit and guarantee. And I also announced yesterday that I'm working on 2 books right now to be released in the month of March, and the 2 of them are on these 2 instruments, because I found out in this part of the world we've not been using it very well, even though the usage of this instrument in the world is increasing. But for us in Nigeria and Africa, our usage has not been on the increase. And it's very important we understand where the world is going and align ourselves, because these are the people we are going to be trading with in the future, or we're already trading with anyway. So we have this book, Demand Guarantee Made Easy, and then Standby Letter of Credit Made Easy. Demand Guarantee Made Easy, Standby Letter of Credit Made Easy. And the way the books are written, just like other books I've written, Import Business Made Easy, Export Business Made Easy. These books, those are the 2 books I've written. And then, of course, we have a book also, A to Z of Export Business Financing. It's actually a book, also I've written on international trade. So that the Import Business Made Easy and Export Business Made Easy, they are basically written in question and answer fashion. And we try to write in such a way that it's not going to be a textbook, because my audience are business people who don't have enough time to read. They are always on the move. So they need information in such a way that it can help. They can find it easy to find what they are looking for. So it's like a reference book. They are all like reference book, because the chapters are questions. Actually, if you check the chapters, they are all question. How can I do this? What is the meaning of this? What do I need to get this? How do I go about this? So those are the questions. So the content of the book is actually answering the questions in the table of content. So the table of content is basically full of questions, and the content of the book is basically answering the question in table of content. And that's why I make it, we call it Export Business Made Easy, Import Business Made Easy, and of course, now we are having Demand Guarantee Made Easy and Standby Letter of Credit Made Easy. Now, coming back to what I was talking about. I was talking about one of the ways for you to mitigate that risk. And I'm saying one of the ways for you to mitigate that risk is by using a payment guarantee or a commercial standby letter of credit. These are instruments that will make you to still use this payment method, which are very simple, easy, fast, and cheap. However, their simple, easy method cannot protect you. Hence, the need to use this payment instrument, standby letter of credit and demand guarantee. When you use them as backup, it becomes easier for you to be able to protect yourself. When you use them as backup, it becomes easier, such that if the buyer eventually is unable to effect payment, you will get paid. Remember, we are discussing A to Z of export business financing, and today I'm looking at mitigating payment risk. And remember, we're in part 9. So if you are joining for the very first time, you have a lot to catch up with. And the good thing is that they are all there on my timeline on Facebook. You can always pick them up to go through them at your convenience, to be able to get to learn and know and understand the detail of A to Z of export business financing. A to Z of export business financing. Now, one way to do this, to mitigate this payment risk, is usually now the use of agents. Agents could be friends or relatives, could be a professional organization, an export management company. Agents, a rep at destination. A rep in the buyer's country to help you monitor delivery, get evidence of receipt of goods, get written commitment to pay a certain date, and then follow up on payment. Now, the two other payment methods that are secured are not easy to come by. Obviously, nobody will give you advance payment if you have not done business before. Some can give you a letter of credit, but it must be a significant transaction in terms of value and volume. Or you give them also a cover in form of a performance guarantee. Because if for them to give you a letter of credit, they will have incurred cost. For them to give you a letter of credit, they will have incurred cost. If you are not going to be able to cover that cost, they might not be interested in giving you a letter of credit. So what that means is that you need to find a way to protect them. If they are going to give you a letter of credit, you need to find a way to protect them. If they are going to give you a letter of credit, incur in the cost of giving you a letter of credit is protected. What that means is that if you are unable to ship, the money they've used to issue you that instrument, which is not refundable from the bank, they are going to get it from you. So that means you also might not find it very easy to get letter of credit. Let me now tell you the big thing. That unsecured payment method called open account, in which case I ship the goods, and after I have shipped the goods, then I send a document to the buyer. Through the document, the buyer clears the goods and then pay me later. As agreed in the contract. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But he pays me later. That portends a danger. That is risky for me. That portends a danger. That is risky for me. But 80% of world trade is done on that term. 80%, more than 80% of trade transaction in the world is done on that terms. So the question you should be asking yourself is then, how are the people able to mitigate this risk? How are the people able to mitigate this risk? It's very important you are able to confirm how the people are able to mitigate this risk. Why? If they are accepting such a payment method presumably dangerous, then they must be doing something. There must be something that they are doing that is helping them to significantly mitigate the risk. There must be something they are doing that is helping them to significantly mitigate the risk. If that payment method is that risky, and more than 80% of trade in the world are done on open account. So what do the people do? More often than not, they have a backup, a fallback. This fallback was not very common before the financial crisis, global financial crisis 2008, 2009. It was after that crisis that this fallback became very, very prominent. After that crisis, this issue of fallback became very, very prominent. In fact, after that crisis, the usage of letter of credit has been nosediving. The usage of standby letter of credit and guarantee has been on the increase. Why? Because many people in the world are using open account, and the financial crisis taught them a lesson that, look, if I continue to use this payment method, I'll be losing money if this crisis happen again. Because they actually lost money because their buyer could not pay due to courtesy the global financial crisis. So in the bid to avoid a repeat of that, many people in the world who have either been used to open account, which could not change to other payment method because the buyer will not accept it, but they still want to protect their payment, started using this instrument, demand guarantee, and standby letter of credit. So when I'm doing a transaction on open account, meaning I ship the good and send document to the buyer to pay at a later date, which exposes me to risk of payment or commercial risk, I then request for him ahead to send me a payment guarantee or a standby letter of credit to protect me. And the way it works is, if after I've shipped the goods, if after I presented the document to him, if after he has cleared the good, if after he has checked the good and everything is in order, if after he has even sold the goods or used the good to manufacture whatever it is I want to, and he fails to pay me as scheduled, as agreed, as expected, I will call on that instrument, and the bank who guaranteed him will then pay me. The bank who issued such standby will then pay me. And that way, I am protected. Monica Ihebi, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. That way, I am protected. So what we're saying is the fact that to the extent that open account and payment, open account is grossly, greatly, seriously used among many partners, many trading partners across the world. The people also have been able to divine a means of protecting itself. Now, so option 1 to protect yourself is through the payment instrument. Option 1 to protect yourself is through the payment instrument. Patrick Agom, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Option 2 is to have a rep at destination. As a matter of fact, at Street Impex, we do a lot of trade transaction for ourselves, and sincerely, the second option I've just mentioned is what we use. With our partners in Dubai, partners in China, partners in Europe, we often always do open account transaction, but there is a protection at the end by way of an agent at destination who earns a commission on the transaction, who keep looking for off-takers at destination and earn income based on the amount of shipment buyers is able to get and shipment made under the contract is able to secure. So that rep, which is in our own case is often in the same kind of business, will get buyers, will follow up on payment, will monitor quality inspection. So at the end of the day, he has a skin in the game. He has an interest in the game. He has something to make, to earn. So he's interested in being the agent. The success of a transaction, as a matter of fact, is his own success. What I'm saying basically is that having a rep at destination as an agent is one of the ways of mitigating payment risk. When your payment method especially is the type that does not guarantee payment. It's not the letter of credit or advance payment. It's the bill for collection or the open account. It's the bill for collection and the open account. Whenever you are faced with that situation, just always remember, you can protect yourself by getting a rep at destination. And knowing fully well that most initial transaction you will get will be in this format, will be in this fashion. What that is clearly telling you is that since the initial transaction you are going to get will require open account, then you might need to work either with the instrument on one hand or with a rep on the other hand to be able to secure your payment at destination. Frances S. Oseha, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Now, you know what happened with this? A lot of people that have tried to do this in the past, in fact, a lot of people have been discouraged in export, really, because of inability to get payment after shipment. Which is why we're very glad as a company that we are making this information available to people to be able to know that, look, this is one of the pivotal risks in international trade, especially for the exporter. And one of the risks the exporter must strive to be able to protect itself from. Because the chance of not getting paid on time and in time is high. And not getting paid in full is high, or not getting paid at all is high, especially if you are dealing with individual who has also issues. I don't want to mention any country, but just be rest assured, just the way people have issue with us, especially when they are dealing with us as a nation in Nigeria, people also in Europe, in Asia also have such issue, even America. Only that environment is such that they find it difficult to get away with it if you know what to do. Especially if you have done what is right in terms of delivering the right quality of product. So you need to ensure you find a means of protecting yourself such that at the end of the day, you won't ship the goods and then it will be difficult for you to get your payment. Remember, there is a risk in international trade called payment risk, and this risk can be successfully mitigated, such that at the end of the day, you will still do your transaction and you will not find yourself being caught inside a risk. If the arrangement above, that's working with a relative, an agent abroad, is not possible, the exporter should either request for a standby letter of credit or payment guarantee from the buyer's bank in an open account transaction, or request for avalization of accepted bill of exchange in a tenor bill for collection. Now, let me explain the avalization concept. Remember, I told you that there are 2 payment methods out of the 4 that are not well protected. And I mentioned number 1, bill for collection. Number 2, open account. Now let's assume you have bill for collection. Bill for collection is very similar to open account. What happened in open account? I ship the goods, I send document, with the document the buyer clear the goods and pay me back later. But in bill for collection, I will ship the goods, I will send document, but I won't send it directly by courier. I will send it through my bank. My bank will send it to the bank of the buyer. The bank of the buyer will release the document to the buyer and get him to sign an undertaking that he will pay at a later date. Mr. Patrick Agom, thank you very much. And get you to sign at a later date. To sign rather, that he will pay at a later date. Now, that's bill for collection. There's a type of bill for collection whereby when I send the document to the bank will not release it. As he's citing the document, he will pay. He will be debited and given the document. But there's another type in which, as he's citing the document, he will sign that he's undertaking to pay on the 60, 90, or 180 days, because I will have attached a document called a draft. I will attach it to the shipping document I'm giving to the bank, to my bank, which my bank is giving to the buyer's bank to give to the buyer. And he will have signed on that document, that draft. He signed it. That draft will have stated the amount we agreed. Remember, we already agreed that he's going to pay me in 60 days after shipment. So when he gets the document, this draft I'm sending is just him committing himself to that agreement with her that he will pay. Now, that document is signed. If he can get his bank to guarantee that commitment, that is called avalization. Avalization. A-V-A-I-L-I-Z-A-T-I-O-N. Avalization. Avalization is the act of a bank guaranteeing a draft that will be accepted by an importer. When I draft, I'll be accepted by an importer, and the bank is guaranteeing that acceptance. That means the bank is saying, if this my customer, who is your buyer, fail to pay, his bank, I will pay you. So meaning, number 1, I can use payment instrument, standby letter of credit, demand guarantee to protect myself against bill for collection and open account. If it's a bill for collection, I can use avalization, that is getting the buyer's bank to guarantee the acceptance or the commitment of the buyer to pay me in future, or get a rep. The simplest one is to get a rep, get a rep, get a rep, get a rep. All those your friends abroad, all those your brothers and sisters abroad, all those people that finish school, that refuse to come back home, those people that because there's no job in here, and they're looking for opportunities there, they can actually be agents for Nigerian businesses, and they can make a lot of money, generate a lot of income just acting as agent for Nigerian businesses abroad. Just acting as agent for Nigerian businesses abroad. If this option of securing payment method cannot be obtained, exporter should restrain himself from signing the contract. And if he does, he should not expect any bank to be comfortable with funding such contract. So if you see a contract to sign with the buyer and the payment method is saying cash against document, or is saying open account, or is saying bill for collection, and you check around, you are not able to get a payment instrument like standby or guarantee, you are not able to get a rep at destination, he will not be able to get avalization from his bank, stay away from the contract. No rep to follow up on payment for you. No guarantee from his bank. No payment instrument. You can't get any bank to fund it. No bank will want to fund that transaction. No bank, unless you have been doing the business for many years and this buyer is on very high integrity, A-rated company that they might probably consider. But typically, they won't consider it. So what that means is that you are not supposed to even go ahead. If a transaction a bank is not willing to fund, it's a sign to you that you should also not use your money for it. Why? There's a risk the bank is seeing that you probably are not seeing. Don't just use faith and go ahead and believe that the person will not default. And you didn't put any measure in place to be able to ensure that you can follow up through a rep at destination. That would be a very unwise decision. All right, our time is fast spent again. I want to thank you very much, everyone that have joined us this evening. Remember, this is Import-Export Platform, Facebook Live, brought to you by 3Thinkplex Trade Academy. We come up every day, work days, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. every work day. On weekend, we come up in the afternoon on Sunday, and then in the evening on Sunday, and on Saturday also we come up in the morning on Sunday, and Saturday as early as 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, and of course in the evening by 8 p.m. So we meet every day discussing international trade and see how we can get the information out there so that people can begin to take wise decisions as far as export trade is concerned in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us again this evening. My name remains Dele Ayimibo. See you tomorrow morning, and bye for now.